Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again. I'm Jeremy, and this is the Crew First Culture podcast. And yet again, kind of following the whatever you want to call it, the theme that I've had going here lately. Got a really good guest that I'm looking forward to digging into some good topics. And today I've got John Ford with me of Slow House Rules, and let him introduce himself. How you doing, John?
Good. Good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I run the Slow House Rules page. I work for a small department here in Idaho, about 20 minutes outside of Boise, west of Boise. And I've been full time there for 6.5 years. And before that, I worked at another combination department as a volunteer part timer for 4 years previously to that. So got into the fire service in November of 2009, hired full-time March of 2014.
Okay. And what's your position right now
Right now, I'm an engineer,
at your
drive
department?
at my department, and then I
Okay,
swing up as officer when officers either on vacation or they need to backfill an officer position.
perfect. So I try to get that out of the way. I kind of have the tendency of jumping ahead of myself and not letting
Yeah.
my guest introduce himself a little bit. I want to make sure of that. But to really kind of get into where we're going here, I was introduced just of you through a podcast you did with Chief Solers, and the
Hmm.
professional volunteer back then is now the professional brotherhood. But I after that episode, I started following you, kind of going back through some of the things before that you posted, and but in that episode, you as you described kind of your message and the reason that you are doing what you're doing, it just really intrigued me because, and I'm just going to briefly sum it up, and I'll let you go into it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically just the mindset of, it's not just people from big departments that are doing great things. It's a lot of people from smaller departments, and there's just a lot of good to be coming from other areas. And that just, it really hit home to me because I'm not a huge department person.
Hmm.
And, a lot of the things I see and hear and are taught from those people are great, but sometimes they just don't apply because you don't work for that giant department. So without putting anything else in your mouth, kind
Yeah.
of just give us an idea of what's the thought process and how you got to Slow House Rules and what you're about.
Well, yeah, like I said, where I work, I'm a real small department. We're a single station right now. We're a 12-man single station department. So we've got 3 4-man crews. We've got an engine company, we've got a brush truck, and we have a water tender or a water tanker, depending on where in the country you work.
Yeah.
And that's what we have for our response. Our city that we're a district, but the city that we cover is about 15,000 people. And in the Boise area, over the last 20 years, the area has really grown together. So you don't have the separation. We used to have more separation and space in between the cities, but our district,
Yeah.
directly to our east butts up against Eagle Fire District and Meridian Fire and Nampa Fire. And so the valley itself is about 750,000 people. Our little chunk of that is, like I said, about 15,000, but we're a part of a much larger metro area. But in my experiences of going to classes and going to conferences and things like that, typically they have the big speakers from the big departments, which totally makes sense as far as the experience wise. Our department ourselves, we don't run a lot of fires. We don't go to a lot of first due
Yep.
structure fires where we will go more on automatic aid or mutual aid to those other districts or cities that are around us for as a second or third due or whatever it is. But in our department, we probably get less than 10 a year first dues in our district. And so
Yeah.
um, when you go and you listen to guys who work for LA or Phoenix or FDNY or Houston, you know, they have a tremendous amount of experience and a tremendous amount of information, but we kind of work in two different worlds. And so that's what I found at a lot of these conferences is listening to people and thinking about, you know, what they're saying. And our third dude does this, you know, Dennis Laguerre, I was in his hydrants to nozzles class a few years ago, and he was talking about I believe the second due in Oakland went straight to the hydrant, and basically they pumped the hydrant water into their engine and then pumped out to that attack engine. And they just said that's standard on every fire response we go to. And for me, I'm thinking, yeah, that's not happening here where I work. Our second due needs to come up and help the first due. They may help. They may charge a line or lay a supply line to us or something like that, but they're either going to nurse us or whatever it is, and they're going to come in and help because we don't have a tremendous amount of engines and trucks all coming. Our initial alarm's a 3-engine and a truck response, and we don't have a truck in our district. We're getting it from Eagle Fire, which is east of us.
Yeah.
And so and thinking about this and then getting to know people who also work in similar areas and work in similar situations, I just felt like there was always this odd getting to know you period in classes and conferences where everyone's kind of, you know, everyone's got their shirts and their jackets from wherever they're from, and everybody's kind of sizing each other up. And it was always funny because the conversation was basically like, hey man, what's your name? Where do you work? How many calls do you run? And it was always like that order of like, what's your name? Where do you work at? Where's that? And how many calls do you run? And so it was, that dominance establishment. And so I just wanted to create something to help people know that it's okay to be from a small place that doesn't run a lot, that doesn't lessen your value in who you are in your department. You're still a valuable asset. It doesn't, as I said with Chief Solaire, it doesn't matter where you work in this country. If you work in a town of 500 people or 5,000 or 5 million, wherever it is that you work, there's people living in your first response area that mean the world to somebody else, whether it's parents, kids, nieces, nephews, uncles, aunts, you know, all that. Wherever you work at, there's someone living in your district that means the world to somebody else. So it doesn't matter if it's a large super metro area with a ton of assets or it's one single station department. You're still doing the same job, and people are still counting on you wherever that is to do your job efficiently, to be competent and be prepared to respond. And so I wanted people to take note of that and feel the importance of what they do, even if they work at a small place that doesn't run a lot of calls. You're still valuable and you're still important, and people still count on you no matter where it is. So don't let that you work at a small place that doesn't do a lot of runs lessen your self-esteem or lessen your value in who you are. You're still a valuable asset to your fire service and to your district and to the people you serve.
Yeah, I love that, you know, that kind of mentality of exactly what you just described. It doesn't matter, you know, what you have done or what you normally do. There is always the potential of being put in a place that you will make a difference in somebody's life. And you know, first of all, you got to keep yourself prepared for that, no matter if it's been 8 months since you ran a fire or a year or whatever, you know, and that's on you. But at the same time, it's so important to maintain that kind of awareness that people are counting on you. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're taking on the role of, you know, what we're doing is being a firefighter, then, you know, you have that responsibility. And that's, I just love that you're kind of reaching out to people that, don't feel like they have a voice maybe, and kind of what you described. I've felt the exact same thing, and that's probably one of
Yeah.
the few negatives that I feel from social media that I'm getting, is that I find myself thinking, my gosh, who the heck am I? These guys, every time I listen to a podcast, it's like, they're talking about a job that they ran last night or last shift, or, you listen to people in classes and it's the same deal, all these fires and rescues and grabs and this and that. And it's like, man, what the heck do I have to give? I don't, that is one of the things that I've had to kind of overcome, to be honest, just
Yeah.
being where I'm at right now, and
Yeah.
trying to spread my message. And it's crazy.
Yeah. It's the same. I mean, I felt the same way. I've been to these places and I say I work in Star, Idaho, and they're, nobody knows where that is. I am the quintessential nobody from nowhere guy. And
Yeah.
we're all over the place. We're everywhere.
Yeah.
There's more of us than there are the well-known names from the big time departments. And I think we forget that because we lean and we count on those people so much for their experience, because they have that experience. And so those are the voices we typically hear, because that's what we lean on to learn from. You and I, we don't make that many runs. And so we have to supplement our experience some other way. And that's the point of going, to classes and conferences and going to these things, is we're limited on what our experience is going to be. So therefore we need to reach out and try to supplement that elsewhere and learn from other people, because we're just, myself, I'm just never in my career in Star, Idaho, am I ever going to make enough runs into fires and first two fires and multi-family dwellings and stuff to feel super proficient to teach the skills on that based on the experience alone. I have to go out and try to find other people that have done it and learn from other people, simply because I know I'm not going to gain that just by going to work and counting on that.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about that stuff, that's sort of the genesis is really realizing that this country is a big country, and from coast to coast, there's way more small departments that don't make that many runs and stuff like that than I think what we consider. We think about the big departments all the time, and the videos that you see on social media and of apartment complexes going up or commercial buildings going up, stuff like that. You're like, oh wow, it's Houston again, or it's LA again, and we forget about all the other small spots in between. And there's a lot of us out there. And so as you were saying, I felt that way. I mean, I've been to these conferences and had people go, where are you from? And about 20 minutes outside of Boise. And if people know Boise, then they're like, oh, okay. And not everybody knows where Boise is, because it's Idaho, and it's
some preference.
it's everyone still considers it to be a real rural place, and for the most part it is. But I felt that, but it's eventually you go to a point, well, it's people still count on me. The people I work with still count on me. The people that live where I work still count on me, and they don't care if I don't go on very many fire runs. When I get the next one, they expect confidence and professionalism and people showing up ready to work, knowing what they're doing. And that's the bottom line, is that's what people expect. And so you're not going to be able to sell somebody's, if their house is going up and their kids are inside, or a grandmother's inside, or whatever the case is, you're not going to be able to sell them on the fact that, well, you know what, I'm really sorry, but we don't go on very many fires. So that's why we weren't up to par today. They still expect it. It doesn't matter where you work. They expect competence, professionalism, and preparedness wherever it is. And so that's just the mindset we have to have wherever it is that we work.
Yeah. And I feel like I want to say this before we go any further. I know that I could speak for you on this. Neither one of us are trying to, down any of these bigger name people or bigger name departments.
Yeah.
They truly add a lot to the fire service, and we are part of who we are is because of their voice and their
Yeah,
experience,
absolutely.
and that is not the purpose of this conversation. It's just to kind of speak for the other 99%, if you will. And so I felt like I wanted to say that because I don't want anybody to perceive this conversation as, man, they're really dogging on the big guys. And no, that's not the point at all. I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically as far away from as you could possibly get. I mean, we're but we're telling everybody that we get a lot from these people, but there's a
Uh,
lot more to the story.
yeah,
So anyway,
I
I didn't
think
want to go
it's,
off on a tangent, but
yeah, I think it's not, no, there's no disrespect to any of them at all. They, like I said, that they provide such a valuable wealth pool of knowledge for all of us because they do all these things that when we get into the fire service, you imagine you think you're going to do, and then you get into it, and wherever you work, you may find that you're not as busy, and you don't go in as many runs, and you don't do all the make all the grabs and do these things that other people do. So no, it's no disrespect. It's what I want other people to do is don't let the fact that you don't do that stuff as much make you feel devalued or less valuable
yeah,
in your position because you're
yeah,
not doing it as much. You're still as valuable of an asset to your department and your community as anybody else, even if you're not going on as many runs, you're not putting out as many fires, you're not making as many grabs. People are still counting on you anyway.
yeah.
And so that's the message.
Yep. And I feel, just kind of speaking a little bit personally of tying in where I'm at to where I feel like what I get from you and your message. I lean more towards, leadership or culture or things of that nature, things that you can't really put an experience level, or you can't grab. Those are
Mm-hmm.
just ideas in the air. I feel like I don't really avoid the topics of tactics and things like that. I just don't purposely go out and have those conversations as far as me
Yeah.
leading it,
Yeah.
because I just don't feel like I have the experience behind it. That does not mean at all that I am not confident in my skills and ability to make decisions and to do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
far from the truth. But it's just that I feel like I have a lot of experience in leadership. So that's kind of where I gear myself towards. Do you feel kind of the same way? I mean, do you avoid certain areas like that because of, or no?
Yeah, I'm typically never gonna really get into tactics, kind of the same reason. I feel like I don't have enough experience, nor do I make enough runs to really give great insight and information into tactics. Kind of like you, I know what I've learned and what I've been taught,
Yeah,
and I feel comfortable in those things. But I'm not I'm not one of these guys that go on these calls all the time and fires all the time. Those are the people that I listen to for their tactics because that's what they do.
yeah,
You know, for me, it's I work at a slow station and I work in a slow house, and so for people that don't know what that world's like, um, it can be really difficult to try to keep focus, retain focus, and keep people engaged when you work at a place when you're not going to fires every day or every 2 or every month, stuff like that. And so that's the world I know, and so that's what I
yeah,
speak to, because that's what I know, and that's the battle I fight with myself is remaining engaged and remaining focused and trying to continue to improve, even though I may not have a first due the rest of this year. But I know it's coming. Eventually it's coming. And so, and like I said, people are going to be counting on me. My crew's going to be counting on me. The people that I work for in my community, they're counting on me. And so that's kind of why I focus on those areas, is because that's the world I live in, and that's the world I know. I'm not going to go to FDIC and teach tactics on multifamily dwelling fires and stuff, because we don't go to them. So I'm not going to talk about that. That's not my world. This is my world of working in a place where you don't go on a lot of runs. You go mostly on medicals. And how do you keep yourself engaged? How do you keep your people engaged? And how do we continue to move forward doing all this stuff without letting that complacency overtake you and set in to the point where eventually you do get that first due, and now you're unprepared because you've let yourself lapse in all those areas.
Yeah.
And so that's why I stick to that topic in those areas.
What you just said right there is kind of a big deal. I think, keeping everybody engaged. I think, man, there's a lot to that. And especially I feel like it's worth saying, especially in the day and age we're at right now, with, I'm sure where you're at in the nation, the COVID restrictions and all that vary,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some that are a lot less strict on it. I'm sure there's some way more. As far as us, we're pretty tight right now. We're pretty locked down, and we have a lot of rules on us and everything else. We're still very, I don't know what you call it. We are very much in the COVID lockdown stage still.
Yeah.
And so that has brought on a lot of challenges for somebody like myself that wants to do good things, wants to train, wants to keep everybody engaged, wants to learn all that. Man, it's been a challenge to keep that going, find new ways to go around things that we can't do anymore. And so I feel like your page and others like it have been very good for me to not only maintain kind of my level of drive and all that, but to kind of spread ideas of other ways to do something, or all that. Do you kind of feel the same way, as far as that's a good message, that's a good purpose for social media and all that right now?
Yeah, it really is. And I think one thing I found for myself personally is when I always say to the people I work with and anybody I can talk to, get outside of your department and make sure you go to classes and conferences outside of your department and away from the people that you work with directly, because you start to create relationships and you meet people, and then you typically you follow each other on social media and stuff, and that's such a great way to remain engaged and motivated and disciplined, because there are plenty of days. It's not like I come to work every day and I'm super pumped and ready to get after it all the time. I'm not. It's the human nature of, you're fatigued. I've got a couple of little kids and they wear me out, and other things that go on in life, and so you can remain engaged with other people that motivate you when you're not feeling up to it. And as you were saying, the social media, when you make these connections and you make relationships with people, and when you're sitting at your station and you're not really motivated and it's hot and you don't really want to do much, and all of a sudden whatever your buddy is that you scroll through and he's got a video on there of stretching lines and forcing doors or working out or whatever it is, and you're like, oh well, this person's doing it, you know what, I should probably get up and do it too. Or you're like, I don't know, I'm out of ideas of what to do today. What do you think we should do today? I don't know. What do you think we should do? And then you scroll through and you find someone who's came up with some drill, at their station doing it. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. Let's do this. So it can be a really, really valuable asset, and um, you can learn a bunch from other people
Oh yeah.
through the social media. And like you said, right now with COVID, we're the same way. Like I said, we have 12 people. Um, Two of them are out on injury, so really we have 10 right now. So we can't afford to have, we get a crew that gets COVID and is out for a couple weeks. Like, we're really
You're
in a
done.
jam. Yeah. So we don't have a bunch of people we can pull in from other stations or battalions or anything like
Yeah.
that. So we're in the same boat as far as keeping everything real tight. And generally here in the Valley, in the Boise area, we do multi agency, multi company drills throughout the year together with all the departments, and that was put on hold, I think in February, when it started to take off a bit. So
Yep.
they
Yep.
basically said it's all interdepartment from this point forward, and that's the way it's been. So yeah, everything that we've had to do has been within our own department. We haven't been able to do anything with any of these other departments around us because of it. And so yeah, it's a real heavy weight that sits on everybody. Every day we're bombarded with COVID this and COVID that, and going on patients and seeing it firsthand, people that have it and they're sick and stuff like that. And so it's as far as a hit to morale, it is. And so again,
Yeah.
there's the challenge is as how do we keep moving forward through, despite the slow working at a slow house and not going on responses. And now we add this element in of COVID, which really restricts our interactions with our other neighboring agencies.
Yep.
Okay, how do we keep the motivation up? How do we keep moving
Yes.
forward even through all this? And yeah, I think social media pages, they can be a great asset to help you through that, as long as you don't get too lost in the weeds, I guess, on it.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
can come overwhelming. But yeah, I mean, there's guys that I've met. Typically, I try to go to the Portland Firemanship Conference every year up in
Mm-hmm.
Portland. The Brothers in Battle and Cody Trestrell host, and I've met and created a lot of relationships from people going to that has carried on to this day, that really helped me by maintaining those relationships through social media and seeing all the things that other people are up to, and keeping me motivated.
Yeah. Yeah. For my station, we used to be fairly, for us, we were fairly busy. I would say the average day we'd have 9 to 10 runs a day, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just always something. It seemed like we were training and doing other things, and it was just busy days. Well, now we had a brand new station put in just a couple miles south of us that cut into some of our district, and they've got 2 rigs so they basically have that and whatever the virus has done to calls. We're down to
Yeah.
probably 3 to 4, I would say, is an average for us now. And
Mm-hmm.
man, that's been a culture change just in itself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you add in that with kind of some of the quarantine and lockdown restrictions. It's been a challenge, but at the same time, it's kind of really allowed us to create an environment and a culture of whatever we want. So kind of what we've done lately is we'll knock out the cleanup and the training and workout and all that stuff. We'll knock it out in the morning and just basically just wear ourselves out and get a really good 3 to 4 hour window of stuff done, and then just kind of kick back and let the rest of the day go where it wants. And I think that's kind of where I've tried to maintain my mindset is there are good things out there that are happening right now. There are uh, good things that have come from all this stuff. And you just got to kind of focus on those,
Mm-hmm.
because if you allow yourself to think about, oh, the call volume has dropped, or, oh, we can't go do this or that like we used to. And so there are good things to come from it. and that's where really try to focus.
Yeah. Yeah. The name of the Slow House Rules it's a double meaning uh, of what I came up with. Is one is, if you're going to work in a slow house to be successful, there's certain things that you have to focus and do. The other is working at a slow house can be really fun, and it can be a great opportunity depending on how you want to look at it. And so, like, for us, we average probably around 3 calls a day, maybe a little less. Summertime, it usually picks up because we have a lot of open space for grass fires and stuff in our district. But there's departments and stations here in the valley where they're so busy that they can't really do anything else but run calls. That's all they do. And a lot of it's medicals. So it's not like it's just fires. Our valley as a whole, we don't run a bunch of fires in the Boise Valley area. We just don't. So working at a slow house also presents an opportunity of free time to focus on those things that you do want to get better at. And so you just have to find the opportunity in the free time that you have to work on those skills, or if it's read a book or listen to podcasts or whatever it is. There's a lot of opportunity there as long as you use the time wisely.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to the discipline of yourself and the discipline of the people you work with. But working at a slow house can be a great boon for you and your skills if you want to put in the time and the opportunity to learn on these things. You just have to be willing and wise with your time to do it. But it's not, if you do it right, it's not as bad as everyone thinks, because you can keep yourself really busy doing other things. Are you going to do that, or are you just going to sit around and wait for the next call? So it's how you approach it and where your focus and your discipline are in order to make it a successful thing to work at, a successful place.
You talked about, so you said 12 people on so is that the department total? Is that what
that's on the line? So that doesn't include administration.
So 12 people each day.
So we have 4 each day.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
We have 3 4-man crews.
So
every day we've got 4-man company.
So do you do a lot of, I know you do mutual aid and things like that with other surrounding departments. Do you do a lot of training and other day-to-day activities with other departments as well?
Not daily with other departments. Usually it's once a month, or as I said before, we usually have a quarterly multi-agency, multi-company drill. Before COVID, we were doing basement fires was the last thing we were doing, and we had 4 to 5 different agencies coming together and meeting at a centralized training facility for those. So you would get our engine company, you'd get engine company from city of Nampa, city of Meridian, city of Middleton, and you would all come together. And so you basically have one engine company from each agency that would be working together, whether it's basement fires or we did a center hallway drill a while back, stretching lines 300 feet through center hallways with corners and things like that. We typically we might get together with a neighboring agency maybe once a month. And it's not a real structured training. It's more like our officer calls their officer on their closest engine company and says, hey, let's get together at this point and I'd like to work on this. And that's what we do. But because of COVID, that stuff's all been put on hold.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was going. I was just trying to get a better picture of what you do. So our department, we've got 5 stations, and you know, normally it's not like we interact with everybody on a
Hmm.
daily basis, kind of like what you said, but there is a lot of traveling to different stations to run errands or things like that, and because so for one example, we've only got a couple stations with SCBA compressors or
Yeah.
extractors to wash gear, things like that. You just have to go to different stations,
Hmm.
and I have definitely noticed that I miss that interaction. Even if it's just to run over to a different station and fill a bottle and just hang out with the crew there for 30 minutes or so before you head back home. I
Yeah.
think that's been a real detriment to some of the morale and kind of the closeness with our department. So that I think there's you got to get creative,
Yeah.
and so I think, do you have the relationship with those departments that you kind of feel the same way? Do you work with them enough to feel
Yeah.
that?
So, do you know who Brian Olson is at
Oh
all?
yeah, oh yeah,
So Brian Olson lives in my district. He lives in
yep,
Star. He works in Eagle. I volunteered. My part-time volunteer time was with Eagle Fire. So before I got hired in Star, I worked in Eagle, and we run our district lines are up against each other. So their station 3 is 4 miles, I think, from our station, 4.5 miles. And so we run with the Eagle Fire guys quite a bit, and I know
yep,
all of them really well from my time when I volunteered there.
yeah,
And then on the west side of us is a town called Middleton, and we run with those guys quite a bit because we share uh, Eagle, us, and Middleton. We all share the north sides of our district are all real wildland grass, sagebrush areas. Urban interface, and so we typically this time of year we get a lot of grass fires that we all run together on. Whether it's fires in Eagle, we all go over there. It's in
hmm,
Star, and they all come to Star or Middleton. But we all kind of mutual aid to each other, and so yeah, we all know each other real well because we frequently run together on even on structure fires. It's our first
yep,
due is just our engine, and so we're getting engines from Eagle, we're getting their truck from Eagle. Meridian is their station 5 is whatever 5 miles or 6 miles from our department, so we're all these district lines are all butted up right against each other, and so call
yep,
wise on incidents we all frequently run together. Um, and so yeah, we have really good relationships with all of our neighbors, and we all know each other really well, and so yeah, usually those multi-agency quarterly trainings that we did, you got to see everybody on your shift
yep,
at these from these other departments, and those were typically the guys that we run with
yep,
on fires and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we haven't, unless we have an incident right now while we're running together, we haven't been able to see each other regularly because we haven't been doing those drills and stuff
yep.
together.
Yeah, to clarify, I said that I know of Brian Olson. I've heard some
Uh,
of his talk, fire talk. I think
yeah,
is kind of where I first listened to him, and man, I love the message he has, and definitely want to reach out to him sooner or later to
yeah.
get him on
So,
as well, because he's just got a lot of good stuff to share.
yeah, people typically have heard of him or heard him speak, or if they've gone to Portland, he's there usually talking as
Yep.
well, and Steven Tyler and those guys. And so that's, if you want to know where I work right next to where those guys work, and we run together frequently. So um, anyway,
That's something, and so that kind of where I was going with that, and I'm glad that you explained it. To basically, you have the same situation. It's just you're, instead of other stations
right,
like me, you're
yeah,
you're dealing with other departments. But we've tried some kind of a Zoom type meeting to just have
Mhm.
some type of connection and joke around a little bit, share a little bit of motivation, whatever else. And there's like I said earlier, you just kind of got to get creative and try to make it through all this, and hopefully at the other end of it soon is some normalcy
Yeah.
and get back to all that. But yeah, I definitely have missed those connections and all that.
Mhm.
So I know that I'm not alone in that for
Yeah,
sure.
I think the most important thing we got to remember is just get out. If you can, just get out of your station. Go for
Yeah.
a drive. Go, right now we've got a driver test coming up next month in September, and so we've been getting out with our firefighters and working on some of the driving skills and pumping skills and things like that. And
Yep.
even just doing simple things like that can
Yep.
have a dramatic effect on the morale of your crew and your people, because you're getting outside, you're getting sunshine, you're working on skills of some sort, and just doing that, you can feel after you're done, and you guys are all together and you're rolling hose and putting everything back up. You can feel the difference and the change in the morale in your people just by doing simple things like that. And so
Yep.
if you can, if your department allows you to, just get out of your station and go for a drive, go check out new construction that's being built in your first two areas, and yeah, just pull some lines, have guys that swing up as driver, have them drive. For myself, if I swing up as officer, well, then I'm going to hop in the officer role and run a quick
Yep.
response, and maybe my captain steps aside and he plays the role of dispatch and ghost units, and so then I'm assigning uh, the other engines in the truck and giving assignments out on a commercial building that's being built right now, and just doing stuff like that, because it gets the conversation going, it gets the wheels turning with everybody, and it kind of gets everyone out of that mindset of the COVID thing, and
Hmm.
we don't get to see people, and it's hot outside and summertime, it's this, it's that, it's
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
It kind of gets your focus off all those things that
Yep.
that are weighing people down, and gets your back and re-engaged, and get your mind thinking about what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost been like two stages for us, or basically three. It had that first hard hit and lockdown, and man, I really struggled with that first go around, and I think
Hmm.
my crew struggled with it because that's exactly what we allowed happen is we just kind of fell into a slump and stayed in the station,
Yeah.
and just it was almost like it was cave life. And man, it was a struggle. And then we kind of got out of a little bit of a lockdown situation for a little bit, and now we're put back in. And I really wanted to approach this second go round with a completely different mindset. And yeah, like you said, just getting out of the house. And I don't care
Hmm.
if it's going, like if anybody sees some of the stuff I put out there, we have a hydrant in front of our station. And, some days it's just me going out, hooking a couple links of
Yeah.
hose to the hydrant and flowing water.
Yeah.
I don't care what I'm doing. It's getting out, it's getting fresh air, just being active, working on some skills. It's just so important to do something. Just get out of a dark place that you're allowed to kind of let your mind run towards the negative. And so yeah, that has been a huge key to a better a better place for us,
Yeah.
just as a crew.
Yeah. It's the last tour, we're working with our firefighter, we're having him pump, um, working on his driving skills. And so captain and I were out I was working with him and kind of going over some driving, some pumping things and skills for him. And then, I went and got on the hose line because my captain's on the hose line. And then it's simple as working with your opposite hand as far as manning the hose line. So if you're right-handed and every time you go out
Yeah.
and work on the drill ground and you're always using your right hand, well, switch it over to your left hand and see, let's say you had to do a 180 up a staircase, and you can't really use your right hand because you're on the inside, but you got to switch it over to your left. Well, how well do you man that hose line with your left hand, with the opposite side of the body? It seems simple in theory, but when
Yeah.
if you hold the hose a particular way in your right hand, I guarantee if you're like, oh, I'm going to do it with your left hand, you're going to drop down on a knee, and it's going to be opposite of what you need to do,
Yeah.
because that muscle memory is built in. And you sit there and you're like, wait a minute. And then you go put it back in your right hand, and you're like thinking about it, and then you're trying to match everything on the opposite side of your body. So it's stuff like
Yeah.
that that you may
Yeah.
not think about or work on a lot, but get outside. And if you've got someone who's working on driving skills and doing changeovers from hydrants and things like that, we'll grab on a hose line and try working on your left hand, or going from a standing position to a kneeling position, to a moving and flowing position backwards, and kind of working on those things while you're out and about. And it's a way to clear the mind, and a way to improve your skills, and find areas that you may have been lacking on that you weren't even aware of, because you just never thought about it before.
It's very interesting and very funny that you bring that up. So I'm left-handed, and every time I try to tell somebody, or kind of teach somebody or help somebody with that type of host management stuff, it was that exact thing. So I would sit there and say, okay, and I would have to put my body in a position, and I had to work my mind around how it would look for them before I could even teach them. And so that's exactly what I've done lately. Is every time I'm out there, I'm doing it right-handed, because I want to be able to teach somebody how to do it without taking 5 minutes and figuring it out myself before I teach somebody else. And man, that is no joke. If you can do it proficiently, right-handed or left-handed, whatever you are, try to do it opposite, and I guarantee you'll figure out real quick that it isn't just, it doesn't translate.
Sure. I mean, I hadn't done it in a while, and I'm like, I'm going to go work on my left-handed skills. And I put it underneath my left arm, and I drop my left knee, and I'm up on my right with my right knee up. And I'm like, nope, that's the wrong way. And then you got to shift back, because I'm so used to just dropping in that manner all the time, right-handed. And so, doing things like that helps clear the fog of your mind, because now you have to engage that brain and think about what you're actually doing, instead of just letting it be a muscle memory thing.
Yeah. I kind of find myself now, when we've done some time stuff here lately, just trying to call it the 1 minute drill, park and brake to flowing water in less than a minute, that type of thing, to where you don't really have time to think how you get down and hold the hose. You just do it. Well, I've found it interesting that more times than not now, my body position falls into the right-handed side. And it's just interesting to see that that's not me doing it. That's just my body kind of putting itself where
reacting.
It wants to. And so it's funny interesting, I guess, to see how your body reacts to things like that. So it's pretty neat. Yep. Something else, kind of along with that, you've kind of addressed it too, is I know some of that stuff can get boring for people, but there's so many different areas of if you just take the one topic of hose management, and you can work on so many different variables of, flowing, like you said, flowing right-handed, flowing left-handed, flowing and moving, and transitioning into a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn, or backing out. And there's so many different things. I mean, you could work and not really do the same thing more than a couple times. And so, again, just getting creative and really digging into those details of the training, not just getting out there and flowing water. Well, getting out there and working on your movements and your hand positions and body positions and all that. There's so much to really dig in and fine tune what you're doing.
Yeah, we we don't have a truck, we don't have a rescue, so we're an engine company, and that's what we have. And yeah, a lot of people will be like, yeah, engine work is engine work. It's you're pulling hose, and like you said, they'll get bored
Yeah.
with it. But if you can sit down and find those finite details that make the difference and show people how they can make a difference in doing those finite skills and learn those things, then I think it really helps everybody understand that it's not just you pulling hose and that's
Yeah.
that. Like there's a lot of fine skills that can go into making a real big difference in your fire attack. And if you really start to study and focus on those engine company skills,
Yeah.
then I think you'll find that you don't get as bored because you start to realize, wow, if I do this one little thing here, what a difference in time and hose management that makes. Or if you're an engineer and driver and I don't know, you pick up some little skill that you saw or somebody taught you, what a difference that makes. And then you start to put all these little things
Yeah.
together. And instead of taking, 3 to 5 seconds off this or that, start collectively adding together. Now you're a minute, you're, 90-second difference in your time and stretching and securing a water supply and moving lines around corners and things like that. If you've gone to Nozzle Forward and you spend time with Aaron Fields, right? Aaron Fields will teach you all the finite, small skills
Yeah.
and body positioning and all these things that can make such a dramatic difference in your stretch and in your fire attack. And so, again, that's part of getting out and going to these classes and learning from these other people.
Yep.
Aaron Fields, Seattle Fire, they go to fires. He's been on countless fires. He's a great asset to go and learn how to stretch a line through a house or an apartment or upstairs, around stairs, T's and hallways, all these things. And he'll sit there and teach you all these finite details that before you never even really considered. And then you're walking out of there going, wow, I can't believe how much I didn't realize I didn't even know. And so, yeah, for me, engine company, there's countless ways to improve and get better as an engine company, and a bunch of small details and things to work on to be better and to get better. And so when you start to realize those things, and you've been around the right people that start to show you those things, then I think you realize that it's not as boring and plain and basic as you once thought it was.
Yeah. And I think that really brings your training to a whole nother level too. It's not just mindless, grab a hose, go in this structure, we're going to go around the corner and put water on the fire. It's okay, grab the hose, we're going to lay it out like this because this is why we do it. These are the options of other options that we can do it because of these different scenarios. You're going to grab the hose kind of like this because it allows you to move in whatever certain way. When you get to this corner, this is how you want to have your body positioned because it's going to allow for the best movement. Getting into or changing your mindset of just grab it, let's go do it, so we can roll it back up and get back to the house, and turn that into truly learning what you're doing, and not only what you're doing and how to do it better, but why we're doing it. Those little details and working on the smoothing out your techniques and polishing your skills and all that, man, that really changes what you do and why you do it. It's amazing if you really dig into that part of training, how much better things run.
And for, I don't know about you, but for our district, we've got tiny old 1,800 square foot, 1,000 square foot houses and mobile homes downtown to we've got 10,000 square foot mansions, and we've got we've got an NFL player who lives in our district not far from our station that's got a 7,500 square foot house with a 11,000 square foot garage and a bunch of other stuff like that. So with huge setbacks, we've got people that have massive setbacks with big driveways up in the hills, and we've got setbacks that are 20 feet off of a old downtown street. So there's those differences as well in your responses as far as stretching lines and preparing. If you've got a 200-foot crosslay that you're going to pull, and you've got a 25-foot, 30-foot setback, okay, and you've got lawn ornaments and 8 cars out in front of the house in a chain link fence, how are you going to manage the hose and leave, your engine's got a spot to leave room for other apparatus. It's a tiny old downtown street. You've got cars and junk everywhere. How are you going to manage 200 feet of hose in that area? And also, what are you going to do on that 9,000 square foot house that's got a 150 foot setback? It's got trees and all kinds of, stuff everywhere. And those differences in managing all those things. And that's what we have in our district. You can be downtown and be in these tight quarters where there's not a lot of room, where, are we even going to have enough room for the truck to show up, or where the engine's going to have to stage, as far as thinking as an officer and as a driver, how am I going to spot my engine to try to give my guys the best access, as well as leaving room for other apparatus to go 5 minutes the other way. And, you got a 10,000 square foot mansion with nothing else around it. And you've got one driveway in or up in a hill. You've got one narrow driveway up a hill where you've got to drive over basically a homemade bridge over a canal. Is your engine even going to make that? And how are you going to get a water supply up there? And so there's all these different variables that exist in all of our districts. We have to realize those things and not get into that complacency mindset of, of thinking that's always going to be the same thing, because for us, there's such a variable difference just driving around our district and what we're going to respond to.
Yeah. And how you describe your areas is pretty much how I would describe mine. We are very similar. We have a couple trailer parks that, if you're familiar with a trailer park, they're all the same. You got a road and they're all just cram packed in there. And we've got residential areas with 15, 20, 30 foot setbacks, and we've got gigantic housing additions with huge houses and all of that. And I think a good way to tie it all together is there's 2 important factors. It's going out, like you said, getting that information from those people that are experienced and truly have lived that life and fine-tune their message and their teachings through real life situations. Going out and getting them, that's one. Number 2 is bringing that back and tailoring it to how it fits into your organization. Throw away the stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with you, and truly tie that into how it will help your organization, help your crew, help you personally. And so I think that is those 2 things really sums up basically this whole conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've done is, when I've gone to conferences and bring information back, and we have discussions amongst our crew or people within the department. And there's a lot of, we don't have any high rises in our district at all. Unlikely that there'll be any high rises in our district in my lifetime. That's for sure. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time of us focusing on high rise responses. Boise is, Boise and Meridian, they've got more of that stuff. We don't. if we end up going to any of those things, I mean, we're going to be 18th due, or we're going to be way down the line. So what our focus is going to be is the engine company operations. Our engine company, we have 2 highways that run through our district. So as an engine company, how are we going to respond if we have a major auto accident that we have to that we're going to be first due to, and then the corresponding units that are going to be coming after us. Like I said before, we have a lot of wildland. That's probably our biggest threat in our district. Is the north side of our district is a bunch of wildland grass, and we've got people with homes out there, and you don't have water supply out there. So how are we gonna mitigate that? It was probably 10, 12 years ago, we had a fire out that ran between us and Eagle that was, I think, close to 8,000 acres, and burned up some houses. And it's, you got a lot of those single driveway up a hill to somebody's house or to a few houses, and we're going to be limited on resources that are going to get there initially. How are we going to manage that? How are we going to manage our apartment complexes that we have in town that basically have one way in, one way out, and managing apparatus and personnel and everything that's going to go along with that. So yeah, it's you take all that information that you learn from these people that are really experienced, and the knowledge and know-how that they have, and then you have to adapt it to whatever the resources are that you have, and know that maybe there's certain things in their process that we're not going to be able to do because we don't have the manpower for it. So these are the areas we're going to focus on because we know this is what we have coming as far as manpower and apparatus. So maybe take steps 7 and 8 out because we're not going to be able to manage those. And just tailor the information. And like I said before, supplement your experience or lack of experience with their knowledge and with what you can learn from them, and then how you're going to apply it to where you respond. And yeah, I think that's the key to all of it.
John, I appreciate your time, and I've really enjoyed this. It's been kind of a little bit different than anything I've done before, just because your message is a little bit different than anybody else is doing. So I really appreciate you being on, and I appreciate what you're doing for fire service. You're welcome.
No, I want everybody to understand wherever they work, whether it's in America or all over the world. If you work at a small place, it doesn't mean you're any less valuable than anybody else. People are still counting on you. Your crews are counting on you. The department's counting on you. Your community is counting on you. And we've seen it in America countless times, big incidents that happen in small areas, and for everybody, your time to shine is coming. It is coming. So take the time and be prepared and be ready, because whether it's tomorrow or next week or it's in 10 years, you will have the opportunity to do what you are set up to do. So make sure you're prepared and ready for that, because that may only be the one shot you get in a 20, 25, 30-year career. You may have the first due with apartments and fires on the first floor and people on the second floor. You may get that one time, or people trapped inside of a house. So don't let the fact that it hasn't happened yet lull you into believing that it's never going to happen, because it will happen to all of us, and we will all be put on the spot. So keep moving forward and keep preparing and be ready for that day.
Absolutely. Completely agree with all that, for sure. So let everybody know where they can find you and how to get a hold of you, whatever you're comfortable giving out.
I have a Facebook page and a Instagram page, both of them, the Slow House Rules. If people have questions or want to talk, they can message me there, and we can go from there. And I hope, if people check it out, I hope that there's something they can take from it and adapt that to wherever they work.
Perfect. Yeah, I want to really kind of push if anybody hasn't heard of John and what he's doing on the Slow House, if you are an Instagram or a Facebook person, definitely go out and check him out. He's really putting out some good information. And as you've heard, he's got a great message and something that definitely needs to be shared, because they're, like he said, the small departments, the small town firefighters definitely outweigh or outnumber, I guess you say, the bigger guys that are out there. And we really need to understand that we have the same role, the same job, the same responsibilities as them. And so, like I said, I love the message and love what you're doing. So
I
keep it
appreciate
up,
it.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
So I think that's a good place to wrap up, and really enjoyed the talk. I think there's so much there. There's so much more that you could just pick a couple of those little areas and go in even further, dig and dig and dig if you wanted to. So good stuff. As always, I want to thank everybody out there for spending some time with us today. I know that that's valuable. It's valuable to us as well. And so I hope we really took advantage of that time with you. Thank you, and look forward to talking again. Until then, everybody out there, stay safe and take care of each other. Thank you.